Well, I would like to quiet down. I'd like to get this started. First thing we want to do is honor a hero of our country, of our state, and our town. Nicholas Georgie Adonis passed away recently. He served in our military, protecting our freedom of our country. He was a New York State trooper, protecting all the residents of our state. He coached baseball at Gavin Park for many years. We have a proclamation for him, and I'm going to give Councilwoman Culligan the honor of reading it, saying she was close to the family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Can everybody, all the Blue Sox family, come up? Amy, Alexis, Tom.
Your glasses?
I don't need glasses. Not yet.
Me neither. Just carrying.
Papa G.
Card out of the way. Just be careful with metal things.
A proclamation commending Nicholas A. Georgiadis, November 18, 1970, April 28, 2023. Whereas our law enforcement agencies play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms which have been guaranteed by the Constitution to every American citizen. And whereas we hereby recognize Trooper Nicholas A. Georgiadis for his legacy of service in law enforcement and his dedication and commitment to the citizens he served. And whereas Nicholas A. Georgiadis served 8 years in the Army National Guard before becoming a New York State Trooper in 1997. And whereas Nicholas A. Georgiadis received 8 letters of commendation and 2 superintendent commendations, one for responding to the World Trade collapse for 13 weeks, and another for pulling a man out of a vehicle before it exploded. Whereas throughout his career, he was promoted several times. In 2016, Nicholas A. Georgiadis was promoted to senior investigator and assigned to the New York State Homeland Security as the Deputy Director of Counterterrorism. And whereas Nicholas A. Georgiadis retired in 2018 due to a work-related illness attributed to his exposure during his 9/11 World Trade Center assignment. And whereas Trooper Nicholas A. Georgiadis fought a courageous battle with cancer for 5 years. He was a patriot. He was a family man and a friend to many. Proclaim that the town clerk forward a duly inscrolled copy of this proclamation of commendation to the family of Trooper Nicholas A. Georgiadis. The witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hands and affixed the seal of the town of Wilton, the 6th day of July, 2023. And I'm not going to read these, but there are also letters of condolences to the family from Senator Chuck Schumer's office and from Governor Kathy Hochul's office. And I will give those to you guys to read. Yes.
We also have Adam Kramer here from Senator James Tedisco's office. He would like to say a few words. Thank you for coming, Adam.
Thank you, Supervisor. Ready the microphone? Everyone can hear me? Well, first of all, thank you, Supervisor, members of the town board, and town officials. On behalf of Senator Jim Tedisco, he really was hoping to be here, but he had a previous schedule commitment. But I'm his chief of staff, Adam Kramer, and as a fellow Saratoga County resident, on behalf of the senator, just our condolences and our heart goes out to you and your family. For the loss we have all experienced. As the trooper, Georgiadis. My apologies. He was a trooper for, 21 years? Member of National Guard. And, for those of us, I know some of the kids here, they weren't here that day, but I think most of us in this room remember the events of September 11, 2001. Remember the days and the weeks and the months that followed. He was there for 13 weeks at Ground Zero. He was a hero, an American hero, for his actions, not only as a New York State Trooper, but as a first responder on 9/11. tell the tale of September 11th and the victims. It wasn't just the 3,000 people who died at the Pentagon and in Shakespeare and at the World Trade Center site and up along the plains, but it was also men like Trooper Giettis from Wilton who heard the call of service and duty, went down there for 13 weeks. I'm sure he knew that there was he was breathing stuff that was concerning, but he went down there like so many others, and unfortunately, he lost his life. He was one of those 9/11 victims, and they should add their name to that total. But not just the victim, he was a hero, an American hero. And on behalf of Senator Tedesco and the New York State Senate, it is truly my deep honor to present this New York State Senate citation to you and the family. And God bless you, and our heart goes out to you. Thank you so much for everything you did for our country and our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome all to Wilton Town Board, July 6th Town Board meeting. I'm going to start with a public hearing, request for a variance to local law number 3 of 2023, solar moratorium, 4394 Route 50 tax map numbers 128-128, 128-131, and 128-1-33, Lodestar Solar, LLC. Representative here, you want to start?
Yeah, we have a short presentation, so just...
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
How do we turn this on? There's a remote. We're on the side there. See that power? It'll take a second.
Probably see that better.
That's good, perfect, thank you. So while this is loading up, I'd just like to introduce the project and the company. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm a representative of Lodestar Energy. Lodestar is the applicant for a large-scale solar energy system proposed to be located off Route 50 here in the town of Wilton. With me today, I have Jamie Smith, one of the founders of the company. He's going to add some color to the conversation we'll have a little bit later on. But I prepared a few slides today just so that we can have everybody familiar with our company, our project at a high level, and then also discuss why we feel like we're eligible for a variance from local law number 3 of 2023, which is the solar moratorium here in town. So with that, I'll let Jamie give a background to us and the company.
So thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Board, for the time. Lodestar Energy is a 10-year-old company. I'm one of the founders of the company. We've been developing solar projects in New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts over that period of time. We're a small company with 13 employees. We are unique in that we develop projects and then we own them long-term. So we have a fleet of about 45 projects that we own and operate across the Northeast. We think that makes us a better developer because we're going to be around for that period of time, and we invest the right kinds of equipment and focus on projects that are going to go forward and make sense. There are no outside parties, there's no private equity behind us, there's no nothing. It's me and my partner who started the company and our own money, and we're entrepreneurs, long-term owners. We've partnered with a number of schools, towns, housing authorities. If given the opportunity, we would love to offer the town the opportunity to buy energy at a discount or buy credits at a discount from this project if it goes forward. Eric will talk a little bit about this, but we are not trying to avoid the things that you guys are looking to do with the moratorium. The things you're trying to prevent, we're not trying to get around those. We really just got caught a little bit in a timing situation where we started before the moratorium came about, and now we have made investments and we have other investments coming up. So we're not worried about what's going to happen with the moratorium, with the changes to the laws that are coming. We just want to be able to continue to work with you guys while you put your solar ordinances in place. So I'll turn it over to Eric.
So a quick background to our project. On the left, you'll see a zoomed in the zoning map in town. The X on this larger property right here is property that we own in town off of Route 50. It's 39 acres. We're looking to develop about 20 to 25 of it. I think 19 acres for our solar project and some tree clearing around the edges so that we're not shading our own panels. There's two other properties that have X's on them off Route 50. Those are direct abutters to us, residential neighbors that we've partnered with for about a year now to try to navigate the design of our project. And they're working with us to have a driveway to our solar site to avoid some unneeded tree clearing or wetland disturbance that would have occurred on the front end of the property. So that's kind of the schematics. We are south of Scout Road in town, east of Edie, right off of Route 50. This setting is a little bit more rural than some of the other projects that I've learned about in town. For instance, we are, the property kind of looks like an L. We're about 800 feet off the roadway, so there's no chance that anybody will see it. We are about 700 feet away from the closest unaffiliated residence. We're proposing to retain tree cover around the perimeter of the property to further hide it, to ensure that there's no visibility. We're an environmentally minded company, so we're trying to incorporate environmentally friendly design standards. We have a DEC property to the north of us. We're looking to put some of our acreage in conservation to hopefully expand the conservation land managed by the DEC. And we're also offering pollinator habitats, and we're basically trying to design this in a way that works for the town, works for the environment, and works for us as business owners.
It will power about 1,000 homes, just to give you a sense of the size of it. The upgrades that are being done, the utility will help all of you have more reliable power as well in the area. You'll have better resiliency because they're going to be doing substation upgrades to accommodate this.
Right. With solar projects, you're almost always either replacing deteriorating equipment or installing new protective equipment. So for this project in particular, there's upgrades at the local substation to increase protection just in general for distributing electricity. We're also replacing some of the electric poles along Route 50 with brand new ones, and the wiring is going to be new as well. So those are just some upgrades that are happening along the way. But I kind of want to speak to our variance request, the long and short of it, and kind of get into the core of our argument here. So we started the project in September of 2021 by entering into a real estate agreement with the former landowner. Immediately after that, we started studying the project with the local utility, National Grid. And basically that's a year-long process where we dive deep into electrical studies and we learn if a project is even feasible. Can it go in this location? Can it be served by this electric grid? We learned that in November of 2022 it could, and a couple months before that we started working with the town on our permitting application because we were starting to get warm reads from the utility. So we met with the town's engineering department and some planning department staff in September of 2022. We had our first planning board meeting with the town in December of 2022. We submitted a complete application, all the works, everything that was required, and we met with the planning board. That's also when we purchased the property. We felt pretty confident in the stability of the local code. We know from the utility company that we have a project if we can get our permits. So we moved forward on that end. It was only in January 2023 that we learned from the town's website that the town board was considering a solar moratorium. And in February of 2023, public hearing was had for that. And in March, it was adopted. So that's kind of our general timeline here. And where does that leave us? Well, with the moratorium, it's a 6-month moratorium on processing solar applications. We can't review our applications with the engineers or the town staff, but everything is to a halt while the town looks to revise their solar code. With how things are going in town, it looks like that process will probably be around another 4 months, maybe 5 months before a law is actually enforceable here, a new one. We've been involved in the kind of the solar code revision committee's process. We've tried to provide industry comment as needed. So that's kind of, I think everybody agrees that's probably the likely timeline. What that does for us is it imposes serious risk on our project based on how we've laid out the project timeline from the get-go. After we finalize our study with the utility, we have to start making really large payments for the upgrades that are going to be needed for our project to be viable. Our first payment was made last month, and on the horizon, we have a very large payment upcoming in December that's just under $700,000. So the situation that we're currently in is that we have no read on the permitting process in town. We haven't really had the opportunity to go through the design to see, shape our project in a way that works for everybody. And if this moratorium is extended to the point that we think it's going to be, we're going to be put in a spot where we have to either abandon the project because we can't make a $700,000 payment without having a read on what the town wants from us, or we have to make a $700,000 payment for the project to continue, but that's a pretty big risk, I think we can all agree, and it's non-refundable. So what we're asking for from the town is variance from the moratorium. And to elaborate on what Jamie was saying, we're not trying to be exempt from the new law that the town is looking to pass. We think the town's going the right direction with a fair code that makes sense, several years after the previous one was written. We're not shying away from that. What we're asking is for the opportunity to continue the review process with the town. So if the moratorium is going to continue until December, give us the opportunity to work with the town's engineering department and get the big picture items out of the way, whether that's reviewing technical documents, whether that's kicking off long review processes with the county. It's giving us the opportunity to keep working so that when the moratorium does expire, we're ready to go. And we have plans that meet the town's requirements, and we don't need to do a several-month back and forth, which is traditional when you're reviewing site plans, sophisticated, stormwater documents, all those technical documents. And on the right, I've kind of outlined what the solar code revision process is probably going to look like, and you can think of these. I mean, it's hard to predict timelines, anybody, but each of these is about a month. So we're looking for a 4 to 5 month process where we're not going to be able to do any work on our project.
So let me just reiterate.
Yeah.
We're not asking for an exemption from the rules. There are new rules coming around how solar is going to be treated in the town. We're not saying we don't want to play by those rules. We're saying, could you continue to look at our project while you're building those rules? Because we're in a bit of a time crunch. So all we're asking is that the town be allowed to continue to review our project while you move forward with your new solar rules. So I want that to be clear with everybody here. That is not like, hey, the rules are coming and they don't apply to us. As Eric said, we've been involved in trying to help the town with the design of the new solar ordinances, giving our input, and as Eric said, we think the town is going in the right direction. We're just asking that we not have to wait because we're kind of half-baked here, and that creates some hardships for us. We've got about $400,000 into this project, and there's a $700,000 payment coming. As I mentioned, there's no other investors. It's me and my partners who I'm a 13-person business. That is going to put us in a bad spot. And all we're asking for is to continue to get a good read from the town as to whether this project is viable or not. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And yeah, I'm happy to give out my contact information. This is my email. I have plenty of business cards, so if you don't have the opportunity to talk to me one-on-one here, happy to do it after. You can give me a ring. But we feel confident in our project, and we're happy to address any concerns that the town may have. So we close the public and...
My name is Dan Boyd, and if you go back to the map there of the area,
people could speak.
I live on this road,
Okay.
and you sent me a letter, and which is the only reason we're here. We're not here to debate whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just going to tell you, I oppose anything that happens that butts up against my property, and it does. And that's all I wanted to say. I'm not going to debate with you whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I don't know what power we have, maybe none. But I'm telling you now, if it involves voting, I'm going to vote against it.
So you don't want us to develop our
I
property?
don't want solar in there.
Okay.
Thanks for coming out.
Simple.
But for one thing, solar's only good for about 10 to 12 years. Then what happens to the panels? They're full of chemicals. They're going to go to landfill or the ocean. And then they leak into our environment and really cause damage.
Let's go on.
No.
All right, we got a sign-up sheet, we're gonna call names. You got 3 minutes to speak. Town clerk will call you.
We have Gary Osarchik.
Oh, it's not related to this.
Okay, that was public comment. Okay.
Is this isn't a question thing for...
No, it's people who voice their opinion.
Yeah, so you guys
It's
can...
about a different item, but it was on a different sign up sheet.
Right.
Okay. Dorothy Aspinall? Do you want to speak on the solar variance?
Not for this particular project, it's for a project, something out by my house.
Public comment.
Okay, so that will be under public comment. Okay, thank you.
Why don't we just ask if anybody...
Michael Bryce?
Yeah, it's going to be under public comment.
Okay. Ed Kukowski? Is it under public comment or?
I have a public comment.
Is it
Okay, I'm
related to
just,
this?
Is it
no one
specific
signed
to
up.
this project?
Yeah, Is it specific to this project?
Is it specific to this project? It is, okay, thank you.
Okay.
You got the
Come on
floor.
up, get on the mic. Come on up, get on the mic. You got all the papers there, you got 3 minutes.
I had several pre-written comments. Several of them are not applicable anymore after what I heard here, which I thought was quite positive. I do feel, though, that under no circumstances should approval of this project happen until our solar regulations, which have been worked on by Mr.
O'Connor.
Ray O'Connor. Yeah, that's just my age, Ray, no, that's all. Mr. Ray O'Connor and his team, who did an excellent job on this specification. I think we have a good specification for Wilton, and I think it's a good specification for the supplier, myself, my humble opinion. I'm an engineer that's been doing large projects for 50 years, so I know a little bit about some things like this. And so that was all I have. The only last statement is I support them going forward with with their process as they go, but under no circumstances can there be any guarantee of approval of this project with them moving forward, and all the risk of cost and of you moving forward is on you, as far as I'm concerned, and that implies no approval. They haven't gotten approval yet on this project, right? So it doesn't imply any agreement or any approval. It just says, go ahead and keep working and we'll try and work with you. And that's pending Mr. Reichman's availability also, I suppose, So, which he has none. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tony Sturm, was that public comment or is that, okay? Tom Case, was it public comment or is it for the variance? Okay.
He's asking if it's on this specific.
Is it on that specific project?
It's kind of on this right here.
It's regarding the variance? Okay, go ahead.
Is this R2?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, it's a little more than just approving a solar thing. You're changing zoning laws to allow this project into residential, I'm assuming, right?
It's currently allowed in the lower density residential districts.
So it's already approved?
No, this hasn't been approved yet.
Okay.
But it's in a zone
It is
now
an allowed
that when we came in, it would have been allowed.
It's an allowable use.
Yeah, maybe it'd be helpful to everybody, the town code as it exists now, and this goes back to, I think, 2016, 2017? 2017. The code was changed back in 2017 to allow for solar development in several areas of town, but it also includes this R2 zone and the R3 zone in town. So that's the way the law exists now. I wasn't on the board back then when it was adopted. I know Councilwoman Culligan, who's also on the committee with me, looking at these issues, and the recommendations or suggestions that our committee made. Under the current law, the way it is, you could have solar development within 100 feet of a residential property. Our recommendation in this draft that we had, which is passed along to the rezoning committee, that's also working on a number of issues in town, would make the distance between a residential building and any solar development at least 500 feet instead of 100 feet. And there's a whole host of other buffering and other measures in there, but it's already allowed by code.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little deceiving because residential R2 originally was designed for residential, okay? And I understand what you're saying, and they've changed it all that, but a little bit of common sense too. I mean, how many people in this room have a solar farm 100 feet from their house? Is anybody in this room? But yet, they're asking the people to accept it. In my mind, the board is elected by the people. They should be looking out for the people's best interest, not private enterprise. I'm just saying, that's kind of common sense.
And that's why we created the subcommittee to review it.
Because it's just, I mean, I was out in your lobby, and I picked up half a dozen of these. It's squirrels, birds, snakes, frogs, and yet you want to go in and destroy their habitat. Why would you do that?
You can't say all.
Yeah.
Everybody isn't for it.
No, I know that, and I'm not saying, well, anybody,
All right.
I'm just asking questions.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I built 45 years. I always had to comply with zoning,
Yeah.
changes and that, we developed
Yeah.
property. We had cash crunch times too. I wasn't crazy hearing that, if they don't make that $700 payment, they might pull out.
Well, when you're in business, a lot of risk.
Yeah, that's just part of being in business.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, what happens if they do? I don't think you should give them false hopes by saying you can keep your project going while we look at this, because to me, that's almost letting them say, I'm going to get approved. I don't think you should do that. That's not your problem. They're 700 grand short. That's just the risk you take by being in business. And I'm not against solar. I'm against where you're locating it. Okay? We have tons of it. Why are you trying to put it where there's definitely, you have groundwater and all, you have issues with that. I mean, that's why they're putting a driveway, because they can't get back to the property because of the wetlands.
So, just to answer some of your question, I hope you don't mind.
Is this going to be question and answers?
To develop the property, there's a few different ways that we could access it, right? If you were a landowner and you own this and you have the equity, you would sure want to use it. So with the wetlands, we've purposely chosen a route where there's the least possible impact. There are other ways that we could access the property that would be a lot more straightforward, that would cost a lot less, where there would be a lot of impact. So to that front, we're doing our best, not because we can't access the property that way, but because it makes the most sense for us as environmentalists and just as business owners. The other thing about, I understand, clearing trees, I'm not a fan of it, nobody's a fan of it, but I'm a fan of it when it makes sense. as we all know, solar energy is clean energy. For the 25 acres that we would be clearing here, this project would mitigate enough carbon emissions to be equivalent to 8,400 acres of preserved forest in the U.S. Is a substantial number. And that's not a number I'm making up. That's a number that the EPA, who has a calculator to document all this, that's a number they gave us. So for us, you know, it's a great net benefit to the environment. We're doing everything that we can to lessen the impact there. But we're mindful of all these things. And we're not trying to be exempt from the law in any way. We're just trying to get through like really technical hydrology stuff like you're discussing and stormwater. We're not getting approvals in any way and nothing's guaranteed for us. We're just looking to keep working on those more technical documents while we wait for the new law to be passed.
Why are you choosing property with wetlands? Why are you even getting involved in that?
I think most properties have wetlands on it. Of course, this one's a little different. It's along the perimeter. But, you know, there's a lot of property that's tough to develop, and we don't necessarily shy away from that.
Has the DEC and the Army Corps been in here and said, because for every bit you take, you've got to add back?
Yep, so we've met with the DEC and the Army Corps at the site. We're going through a state-level review of the wetland impacts, but they're also aware that we could go straight across right here, and we're doing everything we can. We're signing, you know, right-of-ways, we're signing easements, all in everyone's best.
But you don't have those studies yet, the wetlands?
I mean, the wetland study, we have it delineated, we have it marked, we know where they are, what habitat.
Approval from the...
For the wetland impacts, we don't have a written signed approval, but that's part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to further our review of the project so that we can get to that point sooner than later.
I don't have an issue with you trying to move your project forward if that's your agenda. It's just you can't expect people to worry about your financial problems. That's not on the town.
Right.
And it's not on anybody in this room.
Yeah.
So I can't leave that argument out of the picture.
I agree.
So, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy McCabe, did you want to speak on the variance?
Cindy McCabe, 27 Noble Drive. I am just totally, I'm not against solar. I'm against this particular project. It's literally in my backyard.
Wait a minute, this is not Norwood.
No, different projects, sorry.
Oh.
This is out by Route 50.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm against the Noble Drive project.
Okay.
All right.
You can talk, we'll sign you up on public comment.
All right, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak about this particular project?
I'll speak for a minute.
Okay. 3 minutes.
I'll give you less than that.
All right.
Moratorium. It means moratorium for everybody. Can't take exception for them. I understand their problem. But they're talking about financial hardship. What about the financial hardship of the people losing the value of their homes when something like this goes in a residential area? That's what everybody up here needs to pay attention to. Moratorium is moratorium. You let them do it, everybody's going to come in here and say, well, you let them, what about us? Moratorium, I believe you should have another 6-month to a year moratorium because I was at the solar meetings. They were not run very well. We could not hear anybody talk. Unfortunately, there was members who couldn't make it a few times. They consisted of strictly board members, code enforcement, Ryan, the engineer, no outside people, nobody else that we could have voiced our opinion, number one. And I want to know what studies have that group actually done to make a decision as far as having this in a residential area or not. But I'll stick to the moratorium. Moratorium means moratorium.
Correct.
End of story.
Thank you.
Sorry for their hardship. Worry about our hardships.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Somebody want a motion, make a motion, close the public hearing?
So moved.
One second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Let's start the regular town board meeting with the pledge, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Oh, that's just wrong.
Supervisor Lamb?
Here.
Deputy Supervisor McEachran?
Here.
Councilman Bogardus?
Landon, but present.
No,
Oh, we still raising one on nine.
we're just starting the town board.
We just got to number 2.
Councilwoman Culligan?
Here.
Councilman O'Connor?
Here.
Good. I'll take a minute. John Jack Fleming was a town councilman 20 years. He served on other boards in the town for 20 years. He's a big part of making Wilton a great place to live. Toby Kyler was a resident of town. He coached many years at our kids at Gavin Park in baseball. They both passed away last week, so I would just like all of us to take a moment of silence for them. Thank you all. Anybody signed up to speak?
Gary Starczyk? Is that right?
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak about item number 7. Is that okay? Speak about that? Yeah. All right, so I just wanted to quickly speak to item number 7. It's about speed limit reduction on Parkhurst Road. So I wanted to start by saying I've lived on Parkhurst Road for 10 years, and over that time I've really watched Parkhurst really change from what I would consider a commuter road to more of a neighborhood. The number of houses that have gone up, the number of children specifically that live on the road has significantly increased over the last decade. Just for some numbers here, I rolled my property this morning. I own about 500 feet on Parkhurst Road, and I couldn't measure a shoulder from the white line to the end of the asphalt that was greater than 5 inches of shoulderage. When I drove the road, there were at least 4 blind turns and 2 hilltops that give you no line of sight. I think everybody knows about the intersection of Gaylor and Parkhurst. There have been multiple accidents over the years. There's the Orphelps Nature Preserve, Grant Cottage, and to just get like a little bit of the digital era here, there are 2 apps that give like what is called heat for the road, which is how many people cycle and run on the road. Those apps are Strava and Map My Run, and Parkhurst Road registers as one of the most used cycling roads in the area. And so I have no expertise to discuss what the appropriate speed limit for the road would be. I don't think that's what's up for discussion for tonight. It's just whether or not the Department of Transportation should reevaluate if 45 is the correct speed limit for that road. And I just want to encourage the board to consider that, to allow, specifically because of the number of children that currently are on Parkhurst Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought we put stop signs on that road.
Dorothy Aspinall?
I'm here tonight to express our concerns about the proposed solar, and that's throughout the town. We're residents of the town, and we expect that when you buy in a residential area, that you're going to live in a residential area without any type of industrial or small commercial enterprises being built near you. Plus, we're also very concerned about our property, any type of project like that affecting our property values, which was expressed by other people earlier. And this, I'm sure, the quality of life in town also is a concern to us. The other thing would be, has anybody looked at what the effects on our roads would be, having heavy traffic trucks, not just during a building time, but even to maintain such projects in the town? And then there's also, somebody else had mentioned this before also, any damage to our wetlands, wells and septics, very concerned about our wells and contaminated water, plus flooding of septic tanks and such. And also, I feel that the board members are here to represent the people in the town and do what the people in the town feel is appropriate and look for what better options for projects like this that would be more appropriate areas. Now, I'm not against solar. I understand all the positive aspects of it and everything. But again, as far as the town goes, if the residents feel that there are areas that should not be developed in such a way because there's residential homeowners, the board really should put that as their priority, not what, any influences by anybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Bryce, did you talk? Do you want to talk again?
No additional charge.
Thank you.
Repeat and repeat.
It's going to be a lot of the same stuff. But I just want to say, you guys came to the people and asked for your vote. Okay, asked us to vote for you in. How many people of you have come here and argued the fact they want residential, they want solar in residential? Very few, if any. But every meeting we come to, the place is packed with people who are against it in residential areas. That's all you should consider. We're here to serve, you're here to serve us. And when we're asking for something that we feel is that important to where we have to come to solar meetings, to board meetings, to planning board meetings, and argue with you guys that we do not want this at all, you should respect our opinion enough to say, you know what, they're the ones who are going to lose money with the value of their homes. There is a chance of ground contamination, and they could get sick, and it's on our shoulders to protect them. And that's what everybody up here should be thinking about, is us, because you came to us to put you on this board. We did, trusting you. The last thing we want to do is be screwed by us, okay? And that's a bottom line. We don't want that. We have children. We have grandchildren. We know what happens if houses go in some of these areas. We don't know what happens when a solar farm goes in there because it hasn't been done long enough. Enough studies haven't been done. I even forwarded a whole story about the contamination and how it causes ground contamination in the soil. I forwarded that to Supervisor Lant, and I showed him it. There's numerous articles. The only articles out there about the pros are strictly from the solar companies, not from the residents. If we're begging you to please and asking you to listen to us, we don't want it. Plain and simple, you shouldn't even have the right to vote for it. I'm telling you that right now because we're trusting you. We put our trust in you. We've worked all our lives to have a home in Wilton. Okay, Wilton, if you look it up, is Wilton a good place to live? You know what it says? One of the most beautiful areas in upstate New York, adjacent to Saratoga, but yet you're in a rural setting. Okay, that's why we moved here, to be in a beautiful town like this. And for you guys to even consider letting it go in any residential area when there's so much industrial and commercial properties, that's where you should be thinking. Hold on, it's not going to go there, but we'll find a spot for it because it is necessary. That's what we're asking you guys to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Sturm?
Hi, Tony Sturm, 41 Parkhurst Road. I'm here commenting on the proposed speed reduction on Parkhurst Road. I live just past the big curve on Parkhurst. There is a deer trail right in the sharp part of the curve. There's big snapping turtles that come up and cross the road, lay their eggs. I've gotten hit almost twice pulling out of my driveway. because people come flying around that curve. I saw that the town put up speed monitors, electronic speed monitors, but they put them up on the far south side of the road after you start coming up the hill from Route 9, you cross Gaylor, you peak the hill, and then you start coming down. You haven't picked up any speed yet because there's somewhat of a curve and there's a lot of tree growth there. You can't see. No one is going their full speed. I'm not even going 45 yet at that point. So I would ask the town to consider moving those speed things to straightaways where people really pick up speed. I now have to roll down my windows to listen for cars before I pull out of my driveway heading north on Parkhurst because of that curve. I lost a lawn service because the guy pulls a big trailer with his equipment. He could not pull out of my driveway fast enough to avoid almost getting hit twice. And he said to me, I can't come here anymore. I have a family. I can't afford to get creamed pulling out of your driveway. So certainly that curb, there's a couple of little hills. I think you've received some data from somebody who has the training to do sightline studies, and that road is not suitable for 45 because people often go way above that, easily 10 above when they're rushed. So I would request that you approve, the request of the petitioners to have it dropped to 35. Thank you.
Be 25. Just put the sign up, ask for forgiveness.
It's not up to us. It was up to us. Every road in this town, in my opinion, be 25, 30 miles.
The town has to...
We've done it before. We will be doing it again.
We just have to submit them on speed dial.
Cindy McKay?
Hello again. I'm here specifically for the Noble Drive solar panel development behind my house. I'm totally against it, and I understand that a lot of work has been put into it. However, when you do make business decisions, you don't put the cart before the horse. We have business decisions, we are not responsible for it, and write it off on your taxes, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anybody else? Anybody else wish to speak?
Come on down.
My name is Sean Van Beckton. I live at 145 Ruggles Road, along with my neighbors, ground zero for a potential solar farm. I'm not against solar, much like everybody else. I can't understand how you guys can justify putting it in that area, any of the residential areas. Earlier, I'm pretty, I know zoning to an extent. To hear that solar panels are allowed in an R, it was adopted. It was what what capacity? I mean, how much? What I'm looking for here, density. I mean, these are huge areas of land that we're going to wipe out. I live on Ruggles Road, which I believe is one of the most beautiful roads in the county. I bought my land, I did my thing, I invested in this town to know that could go by the wayside by having a solar farm on land that to me isn't suitable with all of the residents that live around there. Again, I just can't understand how you can justify doing that. I can't. I oppose it. I don't oppose solar. I don't oppose your business. That's pro-business, but let's be better in our selection of where we put things. I have 3 kids. I have young kids, and I believe I have a very nice home that I worked hard to build. And I want it in my backyard. I don't. I really don't. So I think that my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Come on up.
Yeah, my name is Bob Marshall. I live on Knollwood Drive also. I'm here to talk about Knollwood Drive. Quaker Springs. I was looking through past agendas of these meetings, planning meetings. I noticed that Quaker Springs location is deemed Jones Road and Perry Road. There's about 25 feet of Jones Road, and then there's a bunch of gravel and a railroad crossing part of Perry Road. Then there's 2,500 feet of Knollwood Drive. It's running along the whole western half of our neighborhood, about 11 houses. Secondly, when we were talked to about it, when the owner dropped in, he said he was, we're a little company out of South Glens Falls. We're veteran-owned. Great. I commended him and thanked him for his service. But why is the application from a place out of Boston? I forget the name of it. It's Gulf something or other. So I feel like that was misrepresented, along with something else that happened the night of one. I think it was the first zone. One other comment I just wanted to bring up. It was more of a question. If they meet all of the zoning requirements, are they guaranteed to get that?
No.
Pardon me?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
No. Not with the way the current zoning code was rewritten, which was submitted to the zoning, what's your committee?
Zoning committee.
The solar went to the zoning revision.
It's coming to my committee.
What the conversation was in the solar committee was that would be by special use permit only.
Okay.
So rather than because sometimes people may not know, if a parcel of property is zoned for something, it doesn't come before this board. It goes to the planning, it goes to the zoning board.
Right.
Sometimes we are like, wait, what is this project that's going on? Our thought with the solar was if it was by special use permit only, it must come to this board first. So we look at every application on its own, little island, on its own merit, and we can look, and converse with each other and say, yep, that's not where we want it. Nope, that's not where we want it. And again, with feedback from the audience, if it's out in rural and it doesn't bother anybody, then maybe. But clearly, in some of these other locations, absolutely we hear you. Absolutely. And it's not that anything's been passed or given or a shoe-in or anything like that. Just simply a special use permit so that this board has oversight.
Nobody's bought and paid for on this board.
Yeah. Just so we have more oversight.
Okay. Can I take just a tiny bit more time?
Sure. Yes, because I used it.
Somebody else raised their hand, so go ahead, use their time.
All right. Great. Because I was playing around on Google Maps, and one of the things, thanks Ed for showing me how to use that measuring tool. If you take my back door and you go out 500 feet, I'm in the Northway.
Yeah.
Now, they have to hook up behind my house on the Knollwood project because they put in a new pole right up the cliff up on Jones Road where they have their 25 feet of frontage at Knollwood Drive behind my house. Just the hookup itself comes within 500 feet, probably 300 feet of my house. So I don't know how that works with the project and the equipment, but it doesn't fit. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. That project won't fit there. With the new setbacks, that project won't fit there. That's correct.
We don't want it there.
Correct.
Somebody else had their hand up.
Question.
Does this repeat and repeat?
Listen, I want to know, does the board here, do you have the authority to actually say or vote amongst you know what, we've heard enough of the residents. We will not have it in residential areas. Let's make another solar committee and find spots for it elsewhere. Do you have that?
Let me take you through the process.
Residential.
So,
It will be brought,
Right.
it will be brought up to the town board.
Right, so here's the way the process went. If you remember when the solar issue first came up, I, among others, wanted to exclude it in every area except commercial and industrial areas.
Correct.
I talked about the Wilton Mall that's got an empty parking lot, some of the other industrial properties that are in town. And then we started looking in greater detail about where solar might fit. It won't fit every place in an R2 or an R3 zone. I live in the R2 zone too.
I know you do.
Yeah.
You showed me on the map.
I know, I did.
What you exactly told me was, and other people, it will definitely not go in this area. All this area will not go in. The following meeting, you know what you told us? You said, you know what? I had to change my mind because I would much rather see solar farms than residential houses.
Well,
that's exactly what you told us.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. So I can't speak, and neither can Aaron. We can't speak to why the town board in 2017 put these rules into place that would allow solar panels within 100 feet of somebody's property. I can't speak to that. I wasn't on the town board at the time. I think if I was, I would not have approved that or voted for it because, yeah, and make it much more onerous so that if it's in an area where there isn't objection by residents, where it does not have an impact, and where it's got to be at least 500 feet away.
Now, I thought you said 700 feet. You had originally said.
No, it was never 700 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always 500 feet. So if it was in an area where those much more onerous rules apply, for example, you could have no more than a 50% coverage. So if you had 100 acres of land, you could not develop for solar purposes any more than 50.
Correct.
And if it's in an area that's adjacent to existing residential properties, like we've heard the folks from Knollwood, multiple times, as well as you, that, as Ms. Culligan has mentioned, it would be subject to a special use permit that would have to be given by the town board. So
But you can cut all that out by just eliminating it from the R2.
And that's one of the options. So
that's all you have to do. Eliminate. You know why? So we don't have to take time out of our lives to come down here and argue with you. That's what we're doing.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
And you really touched the nerve when you said you personally would rather see solar farms than more 200 houses put up. Well, you know what? We don't lose value in our homes if 200 homes go up. But we do with a solar farm.
Right. But
so bottom line, you should just, you know what? Just
hang on a second. Hang on. So, among the options, we don't think any zoning decision should be made in a vacuum. We have to look at things town-wide. And Deputy Supervisor McEachran, parallel to our committee, is also running a committee that's looking at all of
code revision.
The code revision committee. They're looking at town-wide, so no decision should be made in a vacuum, whether it's about solar development or commercial development or residential development. It should be looked at in totality. So prior to the final meeting that we had to look at the issues at solar, I called Deputy Supervisor McEachran, I called Supervisor Lant, and I said, we shouldn't be looking at this in a vacuum. So we're going to take all of the information that we've gathered, we've passed it along to the Zoning Revision Committee, and their committee will make a final decision, not just about solar, but a lot of different prospective uses, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial, or everything else. And at that point...
Chickens to solar.
And at that point, that committee will make a recommendation to the town board, and then it's up to the town board, and not just about solar, but about a lot of zoning issues. And one of the possibilities is that solar will not be allowed in residential zones.
Yeah, one of the possibilities. But you see the amount of people that are against it?
I do.
That's all bottom line. You know what you should do? You. How do you feel? No, Okay, thanks for everybody coming. It's not going in the residential. We're gonna take care of it.
There's procedures we still gotta follow.
Raise the fence.
Well, I'm just.
The people we're seeing people from nowhere. We're seeing people from Ruggles. There's 18,000 people in the town. When it comes to my committee, we're gonna do the right thing.
Now,
And then when is your committee gonna start?
Mine's been going on.
sort of been going on.
Mine is the
Well, you know
second.
what? We have not known about it.
Have you been to all these meetings?
I've been to every one of them.
No, here.
No, I come. Oh, no.
All right, so if you've been here, when mine started, mine is always the second Thursday of every month.
The second Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday after the board meeting.
Thursday after
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thursday after the board meeting. It starts at 5, it goes to 7 o'clock sharp, and for some of the people that can't get here at 5 o'clock, we can extend it.
And it's made up of public and citizens and some
That's how
council.
the first solar committee should have been brought up.
I took the blame on that, it was my fault. I took the blame on it.
We started to talk about solar in my committee, and I was like, no, this isn't for us. I go, what do you mean it's not for us? We're the ones changing it. It's not for us. So then it got around, and now it's back to where
Okay,
we're handling
we'll see you next Thursday.
Everybody get a chance.
Listen, everything isn't about solar, though. You gotta understand that. It's an entire...
80% of the people who are coming here opposing it.
I know that,
they
but
want.
my committee is, like I said, it's
I
from
heard you,
chickens to solar.
And everything else,
All
I
right,
understand.
chickens to solar.
Bring your opinion about your chickens and geese with you.
I don't care. I don't really, if they want them.
Listen, I hate
Not gonna bring down my land value at all.
I hate to cut you any of you short, but I didn't have a nap today, I'm pretty tired. Everybody get a chance to read the June minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Margot, how are you?
Is it that time again?
Want to do your Wilton Wildlife report?
At least every other month.
It's so bizarre how fast it goes.
Every other month at least.
Okay, he needs this.
Need a drink.
This is the only conversation we have. For a couple hours a night, we have these conversations at Gavin Park with baseball games or in our kitchens.
Adjust your eyes.
The one where we said, let's put some stuff God, I love that title.
I think this should be a pretty calm discussion. I don't think we have anything controversial going on. So this is, again, the quarterly report from Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park. So this is for the second quarter. I'm Margot Olson, I'm the director at Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park. And I did present this report to the town board. It kind of goes through, our mission is supporting conservation efforts of all of our partners who are the landowners. It is providing environmental educational opportunities for the community through our public programs and through schools and other groups around the community, and then promoting and providing opportunities for outdoor recreation. So when you look at this report, you'll see how we're covering all of the different educational programs, all the support we're doing in conservation, our outdoor recreation. So that's kind of always how we divvy things up into reports, is with those three areas, so our three mission areas. So in the second quarter, it's our busiest outdoor recreation and outdoor, well, mostly outdoor educational time of year. That's when all the school groups are coming with lots of field trips. But lately, we've been seeing also in the spring, lots of in-school programs. So a lot of schools are still not necessarily doing field trips, but then they're bringing us in for enrichment programs in the schools. and with after-school programs as well. We did a great residency program with the 5th grade at Dorothy Nolan School, 4 different programs with all the 5th grade. So we were there for, I think, a week and a half doing different programs. And then those kids also came to Camp Saratoga and did programs there as well. So, so this spring our numbers were almost 4,000 kids and families and people through all the different programs that we do. So it's not just, when I say group programs too, it's not just school groups. We work with the Academy of Lifelong Learning. We were working with Wellspring. We worked with To Life doing programs for cancer survivors. So again, lots of different kinds of programs, and you can see the whole list here of all the different programs, all the different groups, all the different organizations that we work with. So I don't want to spend too much time going through the report since you have it and you can read through it. I wanted to take a little time to do a little bit of a presentation just to let everybody know where we were going with the upcoming project at Camp Saratoga, the Larry Gordon Outdoor Education Center at the town of Wilton's Camp Saratoga. So it's a very long title, but I feel like it really describes the project so well.
Larry would approve.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he would approve.
Yeah, he liked the limelight. He did like the limelight. And so again, you know, front and center, we really want to thank the town for helping us to get to where we are today, to be able to be working on this project. So just some of the highlights, you know, again, to remind people, or for maybe people who aren't familiar, this project started actually with the town and with Larry's widow, with Trish, trying to figure out how to honor Larry and his remarkable collection of scouting memorabilia, and it became a nice collaborative project between the town, between Trish, and between Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park to figure out how to do that at Camp Saratoga. Again, reusing all these wonderful historic scouting buildings, helping to breathe new life into them, creating this regional gem at Camp Saratoga by redoing these historic buildings and building this outdoor education center that will again draw people from Wilton and beyond who will be able to use the resources there. It's a gateway to the wonderful trails that are on the state land there as part of the Saratoga Sand Plains State Forest and State Wildlife Management areas, and many of you probably are very familiar with those trails and get out there and use them for everything from dog walking to bird watching, cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in the winter, hunting, all kinds of different recreational activities that people enjoy. So I think you talked about it at one of the town board meetings that I wasn't able to be at, but we had this great event at Camp Saratoga. The Dake family did pledge to us $100,000, and so they did complete that donation. They gave us a real check in addition to that giant check that everybody gets to hold up.
Did you cash them both?
Yes, in the bank. Money's in the bank. And so we had a great ceremony there. Some of the people like Roy McDonald, who was there instrumental right at the beginning, working on getting the initial project at Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park going with the town, with the Nature Conservancy. And so it was really nice to see all the people who were able to come to that event. And so the Dakes had pledged the money, and they said that they would give us the money once we were ready to start work. And so since we were ready to start work, they gave us the check. So it was a nice event. And so speaking of starting the work, again, thanks to Scott Harrington and the town team that works on these things over at Camp Saratoga. On the left-hand side, you can kind of see the old interior, lots of small rooms of the old health lodge, a drop ceiling that made it very low. They went in there, cleared the whole thing out, and so now it's ready for the next phase of renovation. So I actually talked to Scott today, and he said he's aiming for the end of August into September. He's going to be ordering some new steel floor beams, and Brian probably knows more about it than I do. The floor needs to be shored up some, so that's like the first phase is to do that. Then, because this is actually a log cabin, those are solid wood, just logs there, it's all going to be like framed out, new wiring put in, a whole thing being done. So this will become the welcome cabin that we talked about last time, where people can come in, get maps, get information. There'll be scouting information, historic information from Larry's collection, along with natural history information. Someone mentioned butterflies. Of course, we have to talk about butterflies. So all of that will be there in this welcome cabin. This is like the first part of the project that we're doing. So what have we done so far? So we've got our preliminary budget is hopefully, I think is pretty close. That's why I was talking to Scott today to make sure the budget does look good to him as well. We've got the measurements of that welcome cabin. We've got the preliminary plans and layouts, lighting plan, and we had a grant from the state legislature last year, and so we were able to buy some of the objects that will be in there to enhance that space, some exhibit things, some hands-on things for kids, as well as snowshoes, cross-country ski racks, additional winter recreations that we will be renting out of that cabin. So you can see that we're going to be adding a deck off the front, and that'll give us that accessibility, so that'll ramp it. We'll have a wider door, so that will be, again, part of the project is to be accessible to everyone. And so the cabin will be part of that. And so the steering committee is meeting regularly, frequently, and we're trying to, keep things moving. There's a million moving pieces that a lot of different details that need to be worked out. So you can kind of see we're developing an exhibit plan. We're going to be working more closely with Trish to identify the materials for that welcome cabin. Matthew, who's back there, has been gathering cost information on how to get the internet and phone service to Camp Saratoga. For those of you who've been there, it's kind of a dead spot. We're concerned for safety reasons. You can't make a cell phone call. It's hard to contact people there. So we're trying to figure out how to address that and what the cost will be. So we've been trying to get in with Spectrum and with another provider to see what we can do about getting that internet, phone service safety there. And in the process, starting to do the CFA grant application again this year, see if we can get some state money through parks. The Parks program has money for renovating buildings to increase access to the outdoors. It's a great match. We've put in 3 years, so maybe this is it, 3 years. This will be the charm. In fact, the resolution, I think, that's next on the agenda is required for that CFA grant application. We're working on the pathways plan, a signage plan, and then, of course, we need money. So we're working on a donation plan, the materials, and reaching out to different members of the community, along people like the Dakes. It really is great because that $100,000 gift really helps. Frank Perillo really kicked it off. He gave a $20,000 challenge grant a couple years ago. So we're hoping other members of the community will also step up and help us, because the welcome cabin is really, as we talked about last time, it's just the first phase, because we also are going to be fixing up the winter lodge and the old ranger cabin. So there's plans for all of those. But our hope is that by the winter we'll have that welcome cabin ready to go, and it'll be there for the winter rentals and for people to use, and then available for year-round as well. So I mentioned our mission, so there it is right there. So I talked quickly. I tried to do it really brisk because I know it's been a long night already. But if anyone has any questions, anything about where we are, or anything about the first part of the report.
Great job.
Great job, you always do.
All right, well, thanks. And thanks again, like you said in that first slide.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you to the town. Yes, and thanks to Trish and everyone. Some of the committee members are here. So I know the next thing on the agenda, because last year you said, why don't you just tell them about the resolution? So the CFA grant that we're putting in, so we're asking the state to help fund some of this. And just part of the boilerplate part of the grant is, because we do not own the property, it's town property, the municipality who owns the land has a resolution that is required to go along with the grant. So that's what we're hoping the town board will go along with.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. looking for a request for endorsement for OPRHP grant for Wilton Wildlife. You want to talk about that, Margot? That's it.
I think that's, yeah, there's
You got
no,
it?
it's just, it's
All right.
just,
It's pretty standard, yeah.
it's pretty standard,
All
just
right.
saying that the town.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to...
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Be blinded.
Speed limit reduction request, Parkhurst Road.
I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute. I got another one ain't wrote there, I forgot. Four-way stop sign at Ruggles and Loudon Road, I want to request that. It's the only intersection, I think, out that way doesn't have four-way stop signs. So I'd like to send a letter, a request on both, and write something up on Parkhurst Road, the dangers, like we done last time.
I'll make a motion to approve the sending of requests for the two items that Supervisor Lant just mentioned.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. DOC reply for speed limit reduction request on Edie Road. It only took them a year to get back to us close to when it was turned down.
Why do they keep turning it down?
I'd be sitting in an office from Albany and
You know, I'd
making
sent,
decisions.
yeah, I'd sent a return email to the gentleman who requested the reduction on Parkhurst Road. I live off of Edie Road, and there are a lot of homes there now. There are two trailheads. It's a windy road. Visibility's not very good, and the speed limit there is 55 miles an hour. And I think this is at least the fourth time that we've put a request in to have it reduced just to 45, and it's been denied every time.
I'm going to talk more about that, Ray, on the
We just
committee.
need some black magnets, 3s. Just stick them to them.
Lodestar Solar, somebody may
Is this for the waiver?
Right, yes or no, I need a motion.
I believe a moratorium is a moratorium.
I do too.
My answer is no.
I need a motion.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Is that to deny the variance?
All right.
Request?
Correct.
You got a second?
Yes, I second it.
Pull the board, so.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
I think I'm going to suggest that board members explain a little bit your rationale, not just one sentence.
Yep.
Maybe John said something in the motion that a moratorium is a moratorium. I understand, I'm pretty sure I understand what you mean by that, but if other eyes not in this room look at that motion, I'm not sure they're going to understand what that moratorium is a moratorium. So I'm going to suggest adding some flesh to the skeleton of the motion. Right now is fine if you want to do that, or you can not do it tonight, and then you can prepare a draft decision on the moratorium and circulate it.
Yeah.
I'd rather do it tonight and get it over with. I looked at some of the things, I guess the numbers were brought up, and to me, if it's a 13-person company spending $400,000, it's about $30,000 a person, but when we put this moratorium together, it was to stop all solar until we can get a better look at it. And based on the outcry in the audience, that's my motion to...
Okay, so that's better.
Yeah, I'll make a couple of comments.
But let's not tie, from my standpoint as town legal counsel, you shouldn't tie
Money
the
isn't
decision
part
to
of it.
the outcry from the audience. I'm certainly not taking a position or criticizing anybody who outcried. I'm just saying that's not what you should tie your decision to. Some of what Councilman Catherine just said, I think would be very nice flesh to add to the motion skeleton. I think that'd be terrific. My suggestion, though, is exactly that. Add some flesh to the skeleton of the motion, not just the moratoriums and moratoriums.
Put some skin into it, will you?
All right. So my concerns are twofold. One is that there are multiple applications in town for solar projects. My guess is all of the applicants, or more of the applicants, might believe that they also have grounds reasonable grounds to be exempted from the moratorium, and all of a sudden, the moratorium really has no effect. The second one is, to the folks at Lodestar here, there is no telling how this is going to come out at the end. If I had to guess, I won't guess, but there is the possibility, the distinct possibility, that the area that you've invested in, that you've chosen, will not be permitted to have solar arrays. And I would hate to see you invest another $700,000 in a project where the final decision, may not be in your favor. And I don't want to mislead any of the other applicants that either have started the process or are thinking about starting the process until the rules are finalized.
And along those lines, I'm going to suggest yet a third factor to the motion, following up on Councilman O'Connor's statement that you just said, which was until the rules are finalized. One of the difficulties about anyone seeking a variance from a moratorium is the rules have not yet been finalized, and therefore the request to allow us to continue to have our application reviewed in accordance with the rules is very, very difficult because we don't have the current rules. We don't have the final rules. So I'm going to suggest that be the third reason supporting the motion.
What he just said.
You don't want to repeat that?
So what I'm hearing is a motion on 3 grounds made by Councilman O'Connor. And if somebody wants to second that motion, that's great, and then take a vote. But that adds a lot of flesh to the skeleton of a moratorium is a moratorium.
Second?
I'll second it. They said it.
Pull the board, please. So.
Councilwoman Colligan?
I feel like it's going to be a double negative, right?
Well, the motion, as I understand it, is to deny the variance of the moratorium.
Okay, so I support the motion.
That's the motion, right, that's the motion.
Thank you. Support the motion.
You support the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Bogardus?
I support the motion to deny.
Thank you. Deputy Supervisor McEachran?
Support the motion.
Councilman O'Connor?
I suppose I should support the motion I just made.
Supervisor Lamb?
Support the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? The motion to deny.
Motion denied. Fee waiver, Gavin Park.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. The motion was not denied.
It was accepted.
The motion was approved. What's been denied is the variance request.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what he said.
Fee waiver, Gavin Park.
Wait, I think you need to do that motion.
No.
Oh, we're good?
We polled individually.
The motion was made, seconded, and voted on.
Okay.
The motion, as I understand it, the motion was to deny the variance, and that motion was adopted by a unanimous vote of 5-0.
Correct, correct. Thank you.
All right.
Let's get to them fees.
Write all these notes up.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to see how that motion is written up.
Gonna have to read the minutes a couple times.
Listen to that tape.
Number 10, the fee waiver, Gavin Park. This is about the pavilion rental. You want to talk about it, Councilman Cochran?
I brought it up last month, and I'm in favor of the fees associated and but I'm not for the insurance waiver on residences, homeowners insurance. I just see too many pavilions in the state of New York that I've gone and rented, and there's just none of them that associate a waiver from their insurance company. The fee, I'd like to continue with the fee and the the security deposit. I don't believe that we should be putting it on we have the insurance in the town, and that's what, because I just reserved another pavilion in Cohoes on an island, and, we're right on a pier, and nothing was asked of me about putting it on my insurance rider, and I just feel it's unnecessary over there. We don't ask insurance riders for any of the other equipment at the park. I don't feel it should be a burden to the...
VFW doesn't collect that waiver.
When I talked to somebody on the VFW, they did say if they were to bring in like bounce houses or any kind of extra things, they would require it. I don't believe that Gavin Park even allows bounce houses to be brought in for the pavilion rental anyway.
Right,
so.
They said anything that increased the risk of it.
Anything that would increase the risk. So my vote, I still the same from last month. I don't believe we should be putting it on residences.
Got a motion?
We'll make that motion.
Second.
Or do you want to discuss?
Let's discuss. I was going to wait and then discuss it after.
I'll second.
I'm just curious, how much is it costing?
Sometimes it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Other times it can cost upwards of $300-400 for an hour's worth of insurance. Depends on your insurance company.
I know one party that went to rent the pavilion, they were required to have $1 million, and their homeowner's insurance will not cover it. They had to go to a separate insurance company to get coverage for a 3-year-old birthday party, and it cost them $400 and some for 2 hours or whatever it was. Because their homeowner's insurance does not cover the rental of pavilions.
And they were asking $1 million in coverage, which, I think Maria sent an email out that
Who was asking for $1 million of coverage?
That was park is asking for it.
Yeah, the park is requiring $1 million coverage.
Right.
How many complaints has Mark had?
I don't know. I imagine anybody that goes there and has to pay is going to complain. This is something I observed, and I'm like, I didn't even know we were doing it. Because, again, it was brought to my attention. I'm like, well, I rent pavilions everywhere. I've rented them on Exit 18. I've rented them in Warrensburg. I just recently Cohoes for the last 3 years, and I've never had to put it on my insurance ride, ever. I had to pay a rental fee and a security deposit, which I got back once everything was cleaned up and everything was good. I got my money back. I never had to put it on an insurance policy. And that's what I'm trying to get removed. I don't know why it was even put there to begin with. And like I said, we don't ask anybody that goes to the splash park or the playground or anything else. I mean, if it's a commercial, absolutely, you got to have insurance. Somebody rents that commercially, you're absolutely going to have insurance, 100%. But these are residents of this town that I don't believe it's their
park.
It's their pavilion. There was a grant that purchased that pavilion, unlike last month that that was told the town board or the town had paid for it. It was a grant purchased by Kerry Warner that bought that pavilion. So we did put some money towards it for concrete to put it up and assemble it, but the pavilion was donated. And to me, it's the town owns the equipment. Why are we making them suffer? And again, most of them, maybe on my homeowner's insurance, they won't suffer. I could probably rent it, wouldn't cost me nothing. But if one person had to pay $400 for a 3-year-old's birthday party and a $250 fee to rent the pavilion, that's $600 to use their own equipment, to use to me, it's absurd.
I would agree that cost is absurd.
It is.
I don't know that I agree to waive
Well, we're still insured.
Coverage.
Still insured.
The insurance is covered. Our insurance company covers it no matter what. I mean, if you ask your insurance company, hey, if we can get a family to cover 300,000 of this,
But will our insurance company
absolutely
cover it?
Phone calls were made.
Well, that's what I'm asking, because my conversation that I had was a little bit different than that. If we are not taking insurance, is our insurance company going to cover it, or is it going to come out of taxpayer dollars? So that we're really not saving taxpayers money, because they're going to have to pay for any injury that was sustained, because our insurance company is going to want to know why they required us to cover insurance.
The
and we
insurance
chose
company
not
didn't
to.
require it. From what I was understood, it was Steve Porto required it.
So, from what I understand, the pavilion went up during Steve Porto's tenure as the park director. And the insurance requirement is $1 million right now, across the board for any occasion that is held at the pavilion, whether it is a mom with 10 little kids giving them cake so that they can enjoy the park, or whether it's, an organization like AIM Services coming in with a DJ, with this or with that, with whomever it is. So maybe a good compromise would be to require insurance, but based on the type of event that it is, have insurance that is a little bit lower for one type of event that should cost next to nothing. $1 million is excessive for a child's birthday party, without a doubt. But then for a commercial, which may include, electrical wires.
Right, and that's what I explained about the bouncy house and everything
Maybe
else.
develop a scale.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
and a bar, and, wherever else.
Right. So that might be the way to go.
I agree with that.
Well,
And perhaps based on the size of it, the rental fee can be adjusted too. If we come up with, a size scale based on the event, and whether it's private or commercial, what's the insurance that may be required, and what's the rental?
I just don't understand why I can rent one in another town without it in 6 other towns. And
I think some of the other...
Not one time have I been asked. All they care about is their fee, that it's going to be, you bring it in, you take it out. That's all. So my thought is, when the question was asked, is our insurance going to cover?
I've never been in the position to find out. I don't know.
And not all homeowners insurance covers rentals like
If somebody, maybe it's a Mark Shackner thing, if somebody was to get hurt at the
our
park,
insurance company.
does our insurance cover it?
I have some baggage on this from another town.
Okay.
Where a sledding accident at a town park resulted in a very, very, very substantial legal award of damages against that town, which was, in my professional opinion, underinsured. I know nothing about this. I'm not an insurance person, I'm an attorney. I think that we need guidance, unless I'm missing something here, we have not received sufficient guidance from our own insurer. We don't know what would or wouldn't be covered in certain circumstances, right?
I don't have an itemized list of what type of events would be covered.
Yeah, no, what I mean is,
See, I felt the same way. The correspondence that we got back, from our insurance carrier was, about costs and limits and everything else. But they didn't say, the town's
We recommend
overall
or require-
coverage.
Right.
The town's overall coverage should be satisfactory for
Or not. They didn't say either way.
Yeah, exactly.
And you made a comment like that, as I recall, at last month's town board meeting, to the effect of getting more information from our insurer. And I thought, at the time, I don't remember if I said I thought that was a very appropriate comment, but I did think that was a very appropriate comment. I think you don't have enough information from our insurer to make the most rational decision on this issue.
You want to let it go the next month?
so who,
John, you want to let it go the next month instead of wasting another half hour?
that's how you want to end it? That's fine with me, but I made a motion and it was seconded, so.
I'll call our insurance carrier and ask them,
I know the answer to it already. If anybody gets hurt in our town at a park, it's covered by insurance. It has to be. Now, I don't know what our policy caps on
insurance,
is.
right, is our
$5 million
insurance
now.
adequate?
Well, it was.
We do have liability insurance, town property.
I'm not gonna make a motion to put the town at risk, and of course, we're talking children's birthday parties. I mean, we ain't talking like blasting off fireworks in the middle of the pavilion.
The same thing happens at Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park, because the town, we have to do the same thing. We have to, for any groups that are over 20, we have to have them provide insurance. So a lot of birthday parties and things we don't do because the families don't want to schedule something that they then have to pay an insurance 4. So what we have with the town is any group over 20, we're required to do the insurance and the hold harmless and all of the paperwork.
I think the hold harmless, I agree with 100%. Because that's what you would assume when you go to a playground or a park. You assume that you're going to hold the, but...
Well, hold harmless is an actual document that's signed
But they
by
do
the
that,
users.
they do that as well, on top of a insurance. You're basically saying, we hold you harmless and you want insurance too. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. I just don't feel...
That's just why I want to find out more about it.
I know the town sits on, our cap on our insurance is quite high. And there's a lot of other activities in the park that could be construed as more dangerous than a child's birthday party under a pavilion. And it's not required for any of them other... If I go over there and play basketball and break my neck shooting a basketball up at a net, am I covered? Can I sue the town? I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
I seen you play, it could happen.
It's definitely a liability.
You should get your own insurance.
Pickleball.
I believe I have it on tape, too.
Pickleball, all right, pickleball. I can play that game.
I've seen that, too.
Yeah. But this is what I'm talking about. We're holding parents of kids, they use it for birthday parties. I mean, we don't carry a waiver for ice skating underneath that pavilion. They don't have to put it on their homeowner's insurance if you go there and ice skate. Now, to me, I know I can't ice skate.
We're renting it.
But did anybody check our insurance company to see if some kid gashes somebody else's kid's head open with an ice skate? Or is our insurance company going to cover it? These are the things that I'm talking about. I mean, we're talking about, and again, I have my own pavilion. I don't need this. This is about our residents. It's their equipment.
It's their park.
It's their park. And same with the, I wasn't aware of it at the Scout Park. I'm aware of that too. We'll be bringing that up next month as well.
The Scout is still town property.
Let's try and get through this one
All
first.
right. Well, I'm sticking with my motion.
Have a second?
What are we doing? Are we
What's your motion?
To waive the fee.
Waive the fee?
No, I'm sorry, to waive the insurance.
Your motion was, I understood, was to
Not require
Not have that
a rider on their insurance.
For residents?
For residents of the town of Wilton.
Town of Wilton residents.
Required for commercial.
Oh, absolutely, for commercial, 100%, and if you don't live in the town of Wilton.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm an abstention, just because I can't make a
I'm for it.
knowledgeable answer.
I agree with John.
We'll find out more about it.
So the three yes?
3-2.
3-1.
3-1-1. Number 11, request New York State DOT for no parking signs on Route 9 trailhead at Graphite Mountain Range.
They're really gonna hate us.
To be an east and west side of Route 9, and it should be also on, some on the end of Worth Road, because you're gonna catch cars parking in there.
Yeah, we just had a bad accident there, too.
All right, I think I've got a lot of them there.
I make a motion to send that request.
Second?
I'll second.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Committee reports.
I have one item. We were going to reschedule the ethics training, and June was not good due to graduations and the way it fell for people. So my question is, should we hold it July 19th or 27th, or should we wait until September when...
September sounds good.
I like September.
Okay. We have September 20th and 28th.
You pick a day and notify us.
That would be Mr.
Make it easy
Shatner.
for you. Yes, be up
You got
there.
some time, I'll get back to you.
All right.
What day?
It'll be in September, either the 20th or the 28th. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. I'm gonna try something new for the residents in August. We're gonna have 2 different bands at Gavin Park, play some music from 7 to 9. Bring your chairs, blankets, and your dancing shoes. We're getting Skippy and the Pistons and River Junction. I've heard both those bands are both great. Somebody my age has probably heard them too. So it'll be September 10th and 24th of August. Skippy and the Pistons will be playing, and August 17th and 31st, River Junction.
Do they need insurance? No, I'm just kidding.
They got it. Wise guy.
Is that gonna go on the website?
It will be in the newspaper and the website. We'll make sure everybody's informed.
Get your dancing shoes.
Wait, what are the dates?
August 10th, 17th, 24th, and it's a Thursday night.
Oh, Thursday.
Things work out good, maybe we'll do it for July and August next year, see how people feel.
So is that like an every certain day of the week?
Every Thursday, it's every Thursday, except the first Thursday's our board meeting, so
10, 17.
every Thursday after that.
For 3 weeks?
4 weeks.
4 weeks, so
7
Hold it on the board.
7 to 9.
People won't come here.
You're not gonna like it.
What'd you say? You're
It's gonna
singing?
be at my meeting.
Somebody's gotta run the show.
You'll be done at 7.
Everybody else dancing.
All right, we'll cut it short that night.
Thank you.
In September, I don't have a date, probably towards the end, we're gonna have a bulk waste pickup for all the residents in town. Probably the same thing, bring all the unwanted things at Highway Garage.
Hazardous waste or? No, it's just.
Bulk waste, not hazardous.
Okay.
Then we have a leaf pickup. People bag them or box them. We have, I believe it's county waste are gonna be set up with, probably be in November, beginning or the end of September, because these leaves are a nuisance. We had a couple of malfunctions at Splash Park. I want to thank John King and his staff for a great job. I'd like to thank Councilman Deputy Supervisor McCachran and his friend. They got some cement. There's a couple of things weren't even. He took care of it, made things safe for the kids. I want to thank you for that, John.
Hey, you're welcome. It's for the kids. That's the first time I sweat.
I want to thank you for not sending a bill too. Appreciate it that you ate, the supplies.
I opened it up for the first 200 residents for free that day.
It was nice of you.
Because they had to wait 15 minutes.
And I contacted our attorney's office to see what the town's got to do to set our own speed limits, our town roads and signs. I think it'd be a lot easier if we did it. We form a committee. Maybe there's a lot of retired police officers or active. We could put on a committee with the highway superintendent, because like I said, if I had my way, the speed limit would be 30 miles an hour on all these town roads, and they haven't got back to us yet. But we're working on it, because we never get a positive answer from the state. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, John, can I say something?
Yeah.
To that point, I thank you, by the way, for agreeing to send this information to the county. I hope you send this information as well.
And Susie always puts a note in it,
okay.
Residents in our
Let me just
films.
point out that the state people who determine speed limits have guidelines to follow. And those guidelines require that pedestrians be considered. I don't believe that the efforts in the past have really done that. And I hope that somehow the state can be put on notice that they have rules too, and they should follow.
You gonna leave us some? The paperwork?
I mean,
you gonna leave us that paperwork?
Yeah.
We talk about in there? Because I've even offered them to come up here and I'd buy the lunch and drive them around, but I never got enough.
Well, so they have a document, I can leave it with you.
She'll look it over.
It's DSM-1. It tells how the speed limits are determined on town roads, and 45 miles an hour, for example, on Parkhurst Road is calculated by the fact that presumably 85% of the cars on Parkhurst Road go no faster than 45 miles an hour, presumably. At the same time, in another section, in those instructions, they talk about considering pedestrians, so it's too lengthy to bring up here. But it should be considered, they should be held their feet to the fire, follow their own rules. And I don't believe they've done it. The other thing I wanted to say was that on Upper Parkhurst Road, from Gaylor to Current Mountain Road, I can believe that maybe 80%, 85% do not stay below 45 miles an hour. I cannot believe that traffic from Gaylor Road to Route 9, which is a 9% grade, on a curve, I can't believe that 85% of the traffic goes 45 miles an hour. It's suicide to get on through there. It's suicide to go through the intersection of Gaylor, Parkhurst, and Greenfield Road at 45 miles an hour on Parkhurst. It's suicide. And you can't do it without risking your life. So I hope that they read that. I spent way too much time writing that letter. Way.
Because we tried to get them to put four-way stop sign there and they wouldn't do it.
I've never seen them reduce it. I've been on here for quite a few years. I've never seen them reduce it, unless somebody gets killed.
No, they did a couple roads, but not many.
I will say, I talked to Reed Schultes, the office down there at the DOT, who was involved in the last petition, and he did indicate that they may favorably look into, not favor a reduction, but at least look into it. So it might be a little positive wedge to go by. But thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything on committees?
Just to simplify that splash park, next time it comes up, when it closes it's,
when it closes, we'll look at it.
yeah, it needs to, there's just a lot of issues that I see putting my knees to the surface,
Didn't we just have that resurfaced?
We did.
It is a little...
And it's
it is a little rough.
Oh, it's like a sand granular type.
Yeah, it's got...
You got little kids there.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. You know how you want to run and slide? Yeah. You don't want to try that there.
No. It's there for safety, so they don't fall, but
I think we can look into it to simplify.
Yeah, we'll look at it, come up with something.
A lot of it can be simplified.
Build a slip and slide.
Maria,
Okay,
you're up.
thank you. So the first item is our 2023 budget transfers. We have two. The first one is the need to increase money for our programs for aging. We have a bus and nutrition contract with the county that services our Wilton residents. The contract went up slightly, and the county provided us with some backup in terms of demographic and need and such. So for the remainder of the year, we're going to need an additional $2,126 to fulfill the contract for the entire year. The second item in this category is for the community days. Supervisor Lant was just talking about the concert series at the park. So I'd like to allocate $5,000 to cover the cost of the bands for the month of August.
Somebody want to make a motion to budget transfers?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The second category is our asset dispositions. We have three of these items, all to do with asking the board for permission to place our older assets on Auctions International for disposal. So item A is Mark Mikens, who's our senior building inspector. He's requesting to sell the 2014 Ford F-150 through Auctions International. We have already received the replacement vehicle, which is the 2023 Chevy Equinox, which will be used by Mark.
So we want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed, carried.
Thank you. Item B is Mike Monroe, our highway superintendent, is requesting to sell two vehicles, a 2006 Chevrolet pickup and a 2009 Ford F-350 pickup through Auctions International. And then these trucks have also already been replaced with a 2023 Chevy Silverado and a 2023 Ford F-350.
Make a motion to sell.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. And the last item for asset disposition is Scott Harrington, who's our facilities maintenance supervisor. He's requesting to sell the 2019 Ford F-350 through Auctions International, and that particular vehicle was replaced with the 2023 Ford F-350, which we just received.
So moved. Motion. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. The third category is personnel. Mike Monroe is requesting to hire Cody Tennant as an MEO, machine equipment operator, to fill the position vacated by Brandon Arnold in June. If approved, Mr. Tennant would be hired at the MEO base rate of $22.94 per hour. And his date of hire is to be determined because he would like to provide his employer with 2 weeks' notice if the board approves him tonight.
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. The next item for personnel is John King, the park maintenance supervisor, is requesting to hire Joseph Smith for the full-time recreation maintenance worker position that was vacated by Joseph Weldon in April. If approved, Mr. Smith will be hired at the base rate of $17.48 per hour. His date of hire is approximately 2 weeks from now.
Motion. Second? Or second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. Scott Harrington is requesting to hire Ms. Samantha Bradley as a part-time cleaner. If approved, Ms. Bradley would be hired at the base rate of $17.48 an hour, and her date of hire is to be determined.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Ms. Bradley.
Or second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, carried.
The next item is Mike Monroe is requesting to attend the New York State Association of Towns Annual Conference in Verona, New York, from September 26th through September 29th, 2023. The conference requires overnight travel, and so board approval is requested.
Need a motion?
Second.
Do we have a motion?
Yep.
Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. And lastly, Tina Weber, who's our assessor, and Nicole Monroe, who's our valuation assistant, are requesting to attend the New York State Assessors Association 2023 Cornell Conference, which is scheduled for July 17th through the 21st. Board approval is required for overnight travel.
You want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I just have one informational item that doesn't require voting, but we're going to be looking into adding a component to our deferred compensation plan that New York State already has available, but the town has to actually sign up for. It's a Roth aspect. So right now, people who participate in deferred compensation do so purely with pre-tax dollars. The Roth will enable the participant to select a after-tax dollar investment. So the documents that were signed when the town first entered into the agreement with New York State Deferred Comp include the ability to go into this agreement without a resolution and paperwork. All we have to do is email deferred comp and say, yes, the town would like to participate in this. So we would like to, but if you have any ideas or thoughts as to why we should, I'd certainly be willing to hear.
No, I think the Roth option is, no matter where you go, public sector, private sector, there are a lot of staff people who want to manage.
Thank you.
Nice job, Maria. Someone make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
In favor?
Go take a nap.
Carried.